If you ask me to speak of Professor Mosoma, I will speak of a man who inspired me for more than 30 years. If you ask me to speak of Professor Mosoma, I will speak of my brother, politically, my brother almost biologically. If you ask me to speak of Professor Mosoma, I will speak of one of the most impactful ministers, impactful in the church and impactful in society. If you ask me to speak of him, I would speak of a man who lived somewhere near Hoedspruit with his two wives, and both of them were sisters. His name was Telegram Mosoma. And in 1948, Winasi, his younger wife, gave birth to this man who is sitting here in front of us today. If you come with me to that area, that general area from Akonhoek to Hoedspruit to Skororo to Palabura, that general area, I want to take you to that area because that is the area that Professor Mosoma comes from. When time came for the young man, David Luka Mosoma, to start school, he went to Skororo, Metsi, Abupilo, not very far from Zanin, not very far from Palabura, and not very far from Hoedspruit. And there at the Catholic school in an area of that place called London, he started school. He's called David, which has royalty in it. He's called Luca, who was actually the most educated disciple of the 12. The rest were nikampoomps, they didn't go to school. So all of these things combine in him. And if you came to Skororo with me to watch him grow, this young man called David Mosoma, you would find that at Skororo, Hamameja, he meets a teacher, Mr. Masikila. And Mr. Masikila sparked something in the young man because Mr. Masikila was the first to notice that this young man had leadership skills. Mr. Masikila was also the first to notice that this young man had to be taught, together with his peers, not to accept second best anywhere and from anyone in life. And so Mr. Masikila, who was also a music teacher, gets sick just before there is an estate fort, and he calls for David. He says, go and conduct the choir. This is a 12-year-old, maybe he was 10 or 11 or 13. And the problem was that he had no jacket. He only had one shirt and one pair of trousers. At the backside, you could see through. You can imagine this short little man conducting the choir. And not only did he conduct the choir, at the end of conducting, there was a standing ovation, and his choir won. And that was the beginning of leadership for the young David Mosoma. His father, Telegram, wanted him to become one of two things. First, he wanted him to become a tailor. So he could have become a tailor, quite a famous tailor, because he actually did learn how to make clothes. And he made clothes. But his father felt that this will not make money quick enough because his father, above all, was a businessman. He was not just in it for the design of clothes. He wanted to make money. And he said, my son, rather become a carpenter. Which is quite biblical because Jesus' father was a carpenter. And he tried, poor man, to become a carpenter. He lived in Tabina, where he did his apprenticeship with a man who was a carpenter there, and he made him work very hard. So much so that he started to fail at school and he ran away from him. I'm telling you this so that you understand who this man is, whose life we are celebrating today. So having the choice between becoming a carpenter or a tailor, he chose to become a pastor. I'm not sure that Telegram Mosoma Senior was very impressed with that. Because surely that's not where you make money. But Mosoma conspired with the late Mrs. Shilubani, the mother of the late Honorable Joyce Mashamba. He conspired with Reverend Carlton Reader. He conspired with a lady from Switzerland who was also teaching Sunday school together with Mosoma there. And they hatched a plan to send him to seminary. And already he had a job, a very good job. He had a very good Bas Engelbrecht, for whom he was working in Palabur. Is it not true that you worked for Bas Engelbrecht? Is it not true that Bas Engelbrecht looked very well after you and paid for your high school? And he left and went to Alice, next to Fort Hare. And his world changed forever. At Alice, he met the likes of Stephen Biko. He also met the likes of Harry Nengwekulu, who was a wanted man at that time, together with the likes of Bani Pichana, who later on became a colleague of Mosoma at UNISA. His world had changed. You saw one of the pictures where he was standing with fellow students protesting against land expropriation without compensation. Because at that time, the apartheid government expropriated the land on which the seminary was built without compensation, because they were a bad influence on Fort Hare. So, no wonder, in many of the articles that he wrote and published in the Black Theology Journal, they were all about land. Now I understand why land has been so important to Professor Mosoma. I have a sense that Professor Mosoma is still inside that train that took him to Alice. I have a sense that he has never alighted from that train. He is still moving in that train, because that train also took him to Princeton after a short while. That train took him to Ottawa in Canada. That train took him to Atteridgeville and to Nwamintwa. That train is still moving, and he is 70 today. I don't know where the next stop of this train is going to be. And so when he came back from Alice, as a pastor in the church, he was sent to Nwamintwa, where one day, as fate would have it, he is traveling in a truck. So two young, beautiful women are standing by the roadside and they're looking for a lift. And one of them sits very close to him. But him being a shy man of very few words at that time, he didn't know what to say, how to tell her what he was feeling inside. And so what he did was that he was wearing a scarf, a red scarf. He took it off because it was a cold day and put it on this young woman. That was his way of saying, I'm interested. That young woman is sitting next to him now. The other striking thing that happened to him when he was at Nwamintwa was for him to see the suffering of the people. He usually went to the post office and saw the lines of people who were going there to check whether they had received something from a son or a husband who's working in Johannesburg or in Kimberley. And he watched with pain in his heart how this community was held ransom by a city that was so far away from it. And he wondered what could be done to help the people. And from that time on, he became conscientized. If Alice opened his mind, the US blew his mind. Because in the US, he was reading for a PhD to imagine how we could be free of this monkey on our back called apartheid. His thesis already imagined that future for us, and he passed it cum laude. He comes back from the USA already with a job at the University of South Africa. If I were to talk about his time at UNISA, I would be making a mistake not to speak about his contribution to transformation. He was the first chairperson of the UNISA Black Forum and the Broad Transformation Forum, as they were called at that time. He He became Deputy Vice Chancellor Operations, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Acting Registrar. He's currently the Deputy Chairperson of the CRL Commission. Professor Mosoma, you are a rare combination of things that normally do not sit together in one person. Because many academics tend to be calm and languid. There's not much passion. Many academics are not passionate. In fact, that's why they put people to sleep. This man is full of passion. He's full of fire. If you want to be inspired, if I want inspiration, I go and spend 15 minutes with him. And he'll say, what are you doing? Huh? You think that is enough? Wake up, man. He is very passionate. That's not very academic. But he combines the passion with such intellectual insight. And this combination, plus the spiritual insight, is just devastating. It is a rare combination. And we are glad that God has blessed you with all of this. You know the saying that says, behind every successful man, there's a successful or there's a strong woman. That saying is wrong. So, this is how I put it. It's not behind every successful man. Rather, in front of every successful woman, there is a man who takes the credit. The success here belongs in large part to Sesalu. Thank you very much for giving us a professor and making him last as long as he has done. And I know that he will last for many, many more years, because between you and God, he is sorted. Thank you.